Hello and welcome to a new edition of True Audio Files. Today, I'm going to talk about Joni Mitchell's Blue, doing a sound quality shootout on this one because of the new release that just came out this week or thereabouts. Anyway, that's when I got it. And it's the One Step done by Mofi. And basically, they're going to be making 12,000 copies of this, but this is a 45 RPM 2LP set of Blue. Joni Mitchell's probably her most acclaimed album, anyways, or favorite of most people for Joni Mitchell's albums, anyway. But before I get too deep into that, I just wanted to, mention a couple of the new releases that came out this week. The big one, I guess, for a lot of people, maybe not everybody, though, is Green Day's new one. It's called Saviors. I've actually had a chance to listen to it a little bit this week, and I like it. I can't say it's their best album by any stretch, but so far I'm enjoying it quite a bit. It was cut by my favorite guy at Sterling, Joe at Sterling, so I look forward to actually listening to the vinyl. I've been listening to the digital stream of it, so haven't listened to the vinyl yet, but I have to think that the vinyl is going to sound amazing if Joe did it. But then you've also got the two classic vinyl series reissues, and you got the Clifford Bound Memorial album and the amazing Bud Powell. Both looks like are mono, so they're older recordings. I think it's mid to early 50s, if I'm not mistaken, is when they were recorded. And so looking forward to checking those ones out as well. So, all right. Now, on to Joni Mitchell and Blue. Joni is someone that I don't want to say recently, because it's been several years, but it's somewhat recently started getting into. And not really sure why it took me so long. I think it was one of those things where I think a big part of it is I'm not really that much into easy listening, for lack of a better term, and like folk type music. So, but I've been becoming more and more appreciative of that style of music the more, the older I get, I guess. So I appreciated it much more. And I also found out, it probably wasn't all that long ago, but, and this might be part of the impetus for me starting to get into Joni a little bit more, is that I know that Prince was a very big fan of Joni Mitchell, especially the song that is, one of the songs that's on here, A Case of You, is, I think he said, one of his favorite songs, if not his favorite song of all times. And from things I've heard from other people, they kind of are feeling the same way about that song, and it is a spectacular song. So that's kind of the backstory of me, and part of the reason why I explained that is I don't have a ton of different variations of this album, and there's a big part of that is when I first started getting into Joni, I kind of did a little bit of research on what was considered the best sounding version of Blue, and the conclusion that was somewhat unanimous was, at the time anyway, was this version, which is actually the Steve Hoffman, Kevin Gray. So Steve Hoffman master, Kevin Gray cut a version of it. It originally came out, I think, in 2007, and maybe earlier, though I'm not sure. I'm sure you guys could correct me if I'm wrong, but this one is a gatefold. This is a reissue because I know I didn't buy it back in 2007. I want to say it's probably 2012, 2013-ish, maybe even a little later. And that could have been a little earlier, but tip-on jacket, very high quality jacket, gatefold as you saw, and 180 gram. I think it was pressed at RTI as well. So very quiet, good sounding record. So, but anyway, I have only that one to compare to the One Step. I've actually passed up a couple of decent quality earlier pressings of it in used record stores just in the past, just because of the feedback I had heard about this version of it. So that being said, how I usually do these things is I listen to the new version, which in this case is the One Step, all the way through, try to figure out which songs will make the most sense to try to compare, because it's really hard as a general rule, in general anyways, to do a audio shootout back and forth between albums and songs. So I want to try to narrow it down to one, maybe two songs that I can kind of go back and forth on, especially at the beginnings of those songs where they, if they have a lot of stuff going on at the beginnings of the songs, I like to pick those types of tracks just so it's easier for me to flip back and forth between the two and do a comparison. So in this case, I did California. A Case of You was very close, and I was going to do that one, but I think California was the better track from a sound quality perspective in terms of things going on in the recording. There's a lot more stuff going on in that with, the bass drum, the cymbals, the two acoustic guitars, and the slide guitar, and, just a lot more stuff going on in the recording. So anyway, put on the one step, and right away thought it sounded great. The vocals dead center, sounded great quality. As usual in most of the Mofi recordings that I get, the sound stage was great. Sound went a little bit beyond my speakers, maybe not as much as some other recordings that I have had and listened to from Mofi, but certainly did a great job of that. Most of the album is pretty sparse in terms of what it's got for instrumentation in each track, so it's good in a way, in the sense that you've got the ability to really listen to like the acoustic guitar or piano or whatever it is, and really hone in on how good it sounds, and the vocals as well. And this one definitely didn't disappoint. It sounded really good. The one thing that did strike me on this as well on the one step is it had a good height to it too. The soundstage, had the good width and depth of soundstage, where again the sound really went a little bit beyond my speakers in terms of front to back and side to side, and also up and down. It was more noticeable up than it was down, but especially when talking about California, because that's the one I listen to the most, because I listen to it over and over again. California especially, there's a cymbal that goes on, and it kind of fluctuates a little bit up and left and right a little bit, but it was also above Joni Mitchell and a little bit forward in front of her, but it was one of those things that I noticed that it was above her, and again, there's a little bit of interesting contrast there where you could hear the cymbal being above her, and then the slide guitar a little tiny bit behind her. But so anyway, sounded awesome, and pretty much not dead quiet, but nearly quiet, nearly dead quiet pressing as usual. So then I put on the Steve Hoffman and Kevin Gray version, and I gotta say, it sounded really, really good too. There was very little difference between the Steve Hoffman and the one step. There were a couple of subtle differences, though, that it took me a little while to kind of listen to them going back and forth to really pick out some of those differences. But one of the things is there was definitely more bass in the one step, and I don't think it was really any deeper. It was just, there was just a little bit more, and for those of you who don't like a lot of bass, maybe you won't like that. I think there may have been a touch more mid-range on the Steve Hoffman, but it wasn't by much. It was very subtle. But the other thing that was noticeable, and again, still pretty subtle, was at least I heard the soundstage went a little bit more beyond my speakers on the one step. And the one thing that probably I noticed more so is the height. There was more height to the sound stage on the one step, where that cymbal definitely sounded like it was a little higher up above Joni's voice, although still was above it on the Steve Hoffman. It just seemed more obvious on the one step. A little bit, maybe a little tiny bit more better definition, but it's really, really, really close. And I would have to say that it's going to be very hard to say that the one step is significantly better or, easily noticeably better, because it's not. It's pretty close. I would really like to hear the more recent not Steve Hoffman, but Kevin Gray cut, because there was I think the most recent releases that are out there are where Steve Hoffman alone, not Steve Hoffman, I'm sorry, Kevin Gray alone cut these at his Coherent Audio facilities, where and Steve Hoffman wasn't involved in those. So I'd be really curious to hear if that's any different or much different than the Steve Hoffman Kevin Gray one. But that being said, both are amazing. I definitely have a slight preference to the one step, because I like a little bit more bass, and that soundstage was noticeably, very subtle, but noticeably bigger on the one step. I would have to say that if you have the Steve Hoffman Kevin Gray one, I'm not sure it's worth going to the one step, unless you just have to have the absolute best sounding version out there. And to me, that one, of the two that I have anyways, it definitely was the better of the two. But I don't see it being something that is worth getting unless you just have to have the best sounding one. Because the pressing also on this version, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know when this version actually was released. From everything I've gathered, the original release, I think, was 2007, if I'm not mistaken. But I know I didn't buy this one that long ago. But maybe it's a holdover from that, and maybe that's when this version that I have was pressed. But regardless, they're going for maybe half of what the one step is at this point in time. And it's a good quality pressing, good quality jacket, gatefold. So, and for those of you who don't like the constant flipping on 45s, it's a 33 RPM, so you listen to 2 sides instead of 4, so there's some advantage on that. So anyway, that's my take. The one step, definitely, in my opinion, is subtly better, but not by much. And if you can find yourself the Steve Hoffman Kevin Gray, you should get it. Not that much money. Well, in comparison to other things, and I would really love to hear the Kevin Gray solo cut. My guess is it's not a whole lot different than this Steve Hoffman Kevin Gray one, but I don't know. I would love to hear it, and I'd love to hear what you say. Do you have first pressings, and do you have the first pressings plus these other two that I reviewed? I'd love to hear your take and see what your thoughts are, and if you've compared them, and if you have the new Kevin Gray cut and compared that Kevin Gray to the Steve Hoffman Kevin Gray and the one step as well. I'd love to hear that too. So that's everything I've got for today. So hope you're having a great week. Hope you're having a great day. Thank you for subscribing if you do. If you don't, please do so. I'd love to see those more subscribers. Hit that like button if you liked this video, and hit that alert bell so you know when my new videos come out. So that's everything I've got. Hope you have a great day. Like I said, thank you very much.